Welcome everyone to a quick tutorial how to maybe potentially fix your Intel Vauxhall i225-v, likely other variants 226 and other Intel NICs and potentially similar of such things with BIOSes and other manufacturers, right? Previous videos, to those who are new, you probably want to watch my previous two videos of the ridiculous adventure of Intel i225-v NIC failing on my Gigabyte, like randomly. It wasn't working great from the beginning. My More Live channel, right? Since I had this board a month ago, the first live streams, always the upstream was always strange without errors and stuff. So the upstream performance was always like less than 2 Mbit, really strange. Never quite figured out what's going on there. But then, like after I lived with this subpar performance, but after a month it failed completely. Maybe due to BIOS update, but probably not. Maybe due to BIOS really update related instability, but that's not my fault, right? I updated Gigabyte's BIOS, that was a pile of garbage. Anyway, it's not my fault that this BIOS update was bad and somehow it bricked, whether it's a Linux kernel driver or in general instability. It's all between Intel, Gigabyte and whoever, right? It's not the user's fault when this stuff randomly fails. So it stopped working entirely, and previous videos, right, it even lost its whole flash like IS, and you don't really need to be computer scientist and kernel developer, but I quickly figured I'm also from the Linux kernel and visible PCID, like this flash was totally bricked. And today I finally got this working again, right? And so what did I do? Quick step-by-step tutorial. And what did not work? Also, some internet, I mean, the internet, if you Google, this is a common issue, right? So potentially thousands, if not even more, because this NIC was used in lots of devices, unrelated to AMD AM5, and even whatever firewall products. So, and a lot of people have issues with it, even gaming, right? Latency and throughput and stuff. It's hilarious that they brought it to market, and it's hilarious that Intel didn't notice that their solution doesn't work very reliable, and 3 years or whatever later, we still have this issue, right? So what did not work for me, like if your Ethernet, Intel Ethernet NIC is so bricked in the non-volatile memory, eeprom flash, that your device ID is already, as seen previously, a blank NVMe, like your PCID changed from that programmed in the flash, no matter of powering down, resetting and flashing the BIOS will bring it back to life, right? I say this because a lot of tips in the internet, have you tried to switch it off and on again? Have you rebooted, leave it powered off for a minute? No, it will. If the flash is gone, the flash is gone, right? So this is what the flash looked to me. Comparing that to other flashes, it looks to mostly random garbage, right? And also I dumped, do I have that still? Probably not. I dumped with this Intel eeprom, you will see the name of that in a second. Here, EE update. I dumped the existing flash in there, and it was all Fs, I think. So yeah, it looks to me that the stuff was somehow totally bricked for whatever reason. What also didn't work, some people used their the 700 series of this Intel stuff is pretty generic, right? So what some people use to bring their i2 actually, so other people did not use that to bring it back to life. Right? Other people, so what does work is the 700 series Linux tools, because 700 series because Intel does not release i225 Linux native tools, right? But the stuff is so generic. Apparently lots of this eeprom non-volatile memory stuff from Intel is so compatible between decades of devices from decade-old E1000 that this flashing stuff is supposed to be quite compatible. However, this 700 series stuff apparently, as far as I found, only works as long as your firmware is not entirely bricked, right? So for me, for me, this failed. So normally, like if your Intel NIC is just performing badly, as they often do, and you want to use a new firmware, which Intel doesn't give you, so you need to scrape the internet for that. So if you're lucky and you found some firmware and you want to flash it with Linux native tools, this only probably, maybe, it didn't work for me, but from other people, I guess it works as long as your firmware is not fully bricked, right? There is like firmware recovery. So as you see here, firmware is corrupt. You've seen this in the previous videos. I guess it's all Fs, or maybe it is all Fs because the firmware was corrupt and the embedded controller so didn't work anymore that returns all Fs, or that it overrode. It's crazy, right? I would not have designed it like this, that this stuff can self-destruct like this, but that is what it is. So as you see here, firmware is corrupt, obviously checksums not matching and stuff. And then the 700 series NVM update 64E does not have recovery mode implemented or stuff, so minus 9 million billion, whatever, not implemented. But a normal firmware update could work like that. So for me, my last resort, also 2022, my criticism with this stuff, it is shameful of Intel releasing this broken stuff to the customers, designing hardware that not only not work stable, but also self-destruct, and then not having the courage and dignity and stuff to the professionalism, being so professional to provide firmware update and tools on the website, right? So we need to resort to Googling all of previous E1000 clobbered NVM, eeprom fail, and Hackintosh of all of stuff. So other people somewhere found these tools, because the problem is I did not find an official resource. I even pinged one at Intel and stuff, the people you know, but it's not like, even if you know people somewhere that might not work directly in the network business anyway, but even if you would know somewhere at Intel, the hierarchy and NDA process and signing off and lawyers and stuff, you would probably not get these tools there. So I saw, when you are a embedded customer and your company and project is sourcing this from Intel, you get these tools as part of your purchasing 10,000 or whatever pieces of this under NDA, right? And I only found this, so I will not publish links here for legal reasons, but if you Google enough, so your unsuccessful one-man Linux distribution YouTuber found this with Google, so probably you can too. And so even Hackintosh people had to flash this at times because they found with drivers and stuff the subsystem ID not being, I mean, it's ridiculous, right? They only flash this for, we want another subsystem, a sub-vendor ID. Ridiculous. But yeah, thanks to, as ridiculous as this this is, thanks to them, I only got and found the tools I needed, which is, it's crazy. 2022, and you need to rely like, thank you so much. You saved me a whole RMA process. So yeah, you can follow this in part to restore that. And what worked for me is, then I used this, as you see here, so I saved this together with an EFI flash, as the Linux flashing tool stuff didn't work in Linux. Although I guess there might be a Linux native version of EE update, but yeah, you can also use just the EFI version. So as you see here, I run, so I had this on the flash together with an EFI shell. And so for me, also what this EE update, I should have actually added a comment there, EE update 64E. This flash looks completely garbage, right? This does look nothing like this Hackintosh stuff here of, so this is probably how it usually looks here with lots of Fs because not used. I saw lots of the stuff is like revision and physical and MAC address and stuff and vendor, PCI vendor ID that the device should come up with and stuff. And my flash self-destructed so much that probably that is complete random garbage. So that is what it came up with. And another pro tip, so I also didn't find documentation because I didn't find someone update the firmware like this. So I had, so I unfortunately didn't capture that. So I used -d, which is like -d for data or stuff, because The help text wasn't very helpful. There is right eeprom and Mac and stuff. So I had to guess, right? And my guess appeared to be right because the help text could be better. So -d, e updates 64, e efi. You need to specify a device if you have only one device. So /all means device, all devices. I only had one. Otherwise with, I think, whatever, def something, you can specify only one device. Usually only have one device, so use /all. And then /d. And one pro tip, so obviously this device needs a reset, right? So if you just flash the firmware, it will not work. The embedded firmware needs to reboot. I'm not sure if this reset, it has this e update 64e has a /reset device or so. I think I tried it. As far as I remember, that probably wasn't enough, right? So after, because what also irritated me is, so after flashing this, if you then use /verify this firmware, also yeah, I'm not linking the firmware. If you need this and Google that, you probably will find it elsewhere. I don't want to get sued by Intel. So also another pro tip, I already thought, nah darn, all this research and efforts for nothing, because when I then verified that, it gave me verification test failed. And I said, I thought already, darn it, this thing got too hot, overheated. It self-destructed so much that it fried itself or whatever. I thought I'd do like 2 hours, like 1 hour research and 1 hour toying around with this stuff wasted. But no, after a reboot, so then I powered it down. I knew already, like then you need to switch it off because the NIC probably still has power for boot from standby and wake over Ethernet and stuff. So then you need to switch it off. The usual recommendation of waiting a minute is for your standby power, right? Your power supply has so large capacitors, especially your gaming and enthusiast 7, 8, 1000 watt power supplies. They have so big capacitors that on standby, your board has probably power for 10, if not 20 seconds. So switch it fully physically off, not standby, that's not enough. Switch it really off if you are unsure or you don't have a power switch. Plug out the power cord, obviously. And then you probably have a visual indication on most motherboards with a standby LED, standby LED. So obviously wait like at least 10, 20 seconds until that standby LED, or how we call it, LED, is off. If you're unsure, wait just a minute is otherwise recommended. And then then it actually turned up with the proper device ID. Did I have that here? So then I actually flashed that again because I still wasn't sure. I think at that point it already changed from showing here, in this welcome screen, it showed the ID. I think it changed already to 15F3. I should have made more photos. But anyway, then the verification actually succeeded, right? I already nearly wanted to give up. It's like, yeah, whatever. I flashed it again, and then actually the verification succeeded. So the firmware was, the embedded microcontroller was probably still running in some completely garbage state and maybe even still returning messed up data of whatever Intel engineered there. So Hool stuff to me does not look like a AAA company, right? So this does not look the quality that you would expect from one of the leading microprocessor companies. It looks like total trial and error. In my opinion, from my 25-year industry experience as a computer scientist, I would have engineered this more foolproof, that this stuff cannot brick itself as easily as Google results show here. How I think we had here like probably more than 1 million hits of, so this is Google that wrong. Let's see if we still have, okay, not 1 million for that. So but again, not every user who writes a forum post, right? So 15,000 multiplied with all the people who RMA'd aboard, who just gave up, just plugged in another PCIe card, plus all the other, actually wait, this is the wrong, anyway, you get the idea. I'm not the only one. Yeah, it's 300, whatever. And it's just Intel NIC. You would expect a company that is dominating the microprocessor space, has engineering, like more quality engineering of relatively, we're not talking an x86 high performance out of order speculating processor, right? We are talking about a bloody simple, just network interface controller. And in my opinion, this is too fragile, right? I understand, well, I don't agree with having a processor in there and 2 megabyte of firmware for such a simple consumer thing. And even this professional enterprise stuff, all those integrated intelligence of accelerating TCP IP checksumming and other offloading and stuff and firewalling, usually it turned out to be like always marketing speech, and then at the end it turned out to be so buggy that it had to be disabled in Linux kernel and BSD drivers and stuff, because it's messing up VLAN tags and jumbo frames and whatnot. It's like so often all the microprocessor intelligence and firmware stuff turned out to be also wasting time until kernel developers figuring like weeks and months of debugging until you realize, this embedded firmware is messing up my jumbo frames, my VLAN tags, my checksumming. It's like also like good luck debugging that, right? Under high load, your network packets break. It's like, yeah, amazing engineering. So then I have this back right now. This is probably not the LAN Mac. I need to check my business server's DHCP server. I will then probably, it works, right? So then it turns, because previously with this broken NIC, obviously this is the BIOS. The BIOS did show here an N/A for not applicable or so. And it also shows there then here. Previously it didn't show there anymore. That's probably some default. Either that is the default in the firmware, or is it that? No, I think I use this Hackintosh NVMe Mac thing here because mine was obviously garbage. So it's not that. So maybe this is a default. I don't know. I need to check with if this. I would be surprised if that is my true Mac with so many zeros. So I will check my company's business DHCP server logs, what I previously had there, and it works, right? So here we are. That is live. So this shit really worked, and that also means it didn't overheat. It didn't self-destruct, like it didn't burn through or got some Thunderbolt EMI or stuff, electromagnetic interference. No, it freaking worked. It just freaking somehow self-destructed. And last but not least, two things. So that is a procedure, right? So that you are your own warranty. Don't sue me if your shit breaks more than it bricked itself already. So no warranties. This is just some random YouTube dude's how-to there with some surrounding context and tips and tricks. Last but not least, I find it crazy that on the Intel series, right? It's ironic, in my opinion, that on a $600+ euro board, you get such a low quality Intel NIC, and you have a enthusiast highest performance AMD system, and they seriously use an Intel NIC. It's kind of, do they have a contract with Intel? Like there needs to be some Intel part on the system, because yeah, you have all AMD and then bloody Intel Wi-Fi and network interface controller. And isn't it ironic that on the Intel series of Gigabyte Aorus Extreme stuff, there they use actually a Marvel AQC 1007 10 gig Ethernet. Also, why is the Intel SKU getting a 10 gig Ethernet, even two? Like, why? Why do you ruin the AMD experience? Although on the Intel version you probably get something similar. I don't know if that is also an i225 or stuff. Okay, you get that additionally as an added bonus. But isn't it ironic that they use the higher quality and high performance part? Why is that not on the AMD SKU? I would love to have 10 gig Ethernet on a 600 euro part. Last but not least, as I said previously, the support response from Gigabyte of like, yeah, go back to your dealer, yesterday, previous video, right? It's not okay. That is not professional support. And I mean, I basically saved Gigabyte a bunch of money, right? I mean, I also saved me a bunch of money because actually the time it took me to research, I also learned something, could make some YouTube videos, amazing stuff, and got some more data points of how broken modern NICs are. amazing, not. But it literally took me less time and downtime, because if I now would have had to disassemble it, I just screwed it in nicely. In this case, still need to make the video. Share, like, and subscribe for another overkill build here on this channel. If I would have to disassemble it, pack it, go to the dealer, either go or ship it, doesn't matter too much. And then I would even not only argue with them, right? Sure, Amazon might be easier. I brought it unfortunately locally because I wanted to have it on the launch day for epic thread ripping performance here for my YouTube channel and Linux building. I would have wasted everyone's time, and then I would even wonder, like, what is the result, right? First of all, I would have probably weeks without a board, so I would have downtime. I would need to use my last year's Ryzen 590 50X, 50X. So I would be down without my hardware, and the result would be questionable, right? Would I get a new board? Would they have the technical expertise to flash it? Would they start to solder? Would they ruin my board, like, because, like, do they have in their RMA a procedure for that? Would they just give me a new board? Would they solder around there? Would they hot air, like Louis Rossmann style? Would they hot air desolder the chip? Would I get a potentially less quality, because you have seen Louis Rossmann, most big companies do less of a high quality, like much worse than seen on Louis Rossmann's channel. Would I get back a board with flux on it, and so on? So I'm much more happy with the result than whatever random stuff I would have gotten back from Gigabyte, because previous video right there support was not the most amazing there, of like basically, yeah, you get no download from us, like go to your dealer, make an RMA request, thank you very much. And also one more thing, at Intel, when you already know, I mean, first of all, in general, this firmware, in my opinion, if there is some hidden state in firmware on there, the manufacturers should, like, we should have the right to repair this, right? It should not be like Intel NDA, non-disclosure agreement, only our customers. Go to your board vendor, and the board vendor's like, firmware? What you freaking talking about? We have nothing for you, right? And it shouldn't be that you are played from one to the other of both, like, yeah, you're not getting support here. And so if there is firmware like that in the device, it should be mandatory, in my opinion. Maybe I should write my local legislators. In my opinion, the firmware should be made available for customers to flash. It shouldn't be that we have this frustration and need to Google tools of other people who found it somewhere. We should have the right to reinstall the firmware, especially with the track record of Intel of randomly breaking the stuff again and again. Where even did I had that? Here. And also I wonder, here they write new B3 revision. I wonder, maybe because here it says revision 01, so I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it's, I mean, I would expect a AAA company like Intel incrementing the revision. But then maybe they only printed, maybe, I mean, because I just brought it, right? And there is already a 1.226, right? So basically, not only is Gigabyte selling the AMD SKU with only 2.5 gig with a less low quality Intel NIC, and the Intel series with a 10, even 2 and 10 gig Ethernet Marvel NIC, but then also not the latest Intel shit you could get, and that is cheap stuff, right? I found Intel's listing for this stuff. They sell it for recommended retail price of like less than $3, right? 2.7 or 2.6 or whatever dollars it was. And actually we could maybe check here with my hardware listing. Did this say a revision here for... Yeah, so that is the same revision. So that maybe it's coming out of the flash, but this is basically how I purchased it, and it's set revision 01. So I don't know if the revision, I mean, I would expect from a like sophisticated AAA company to increment the revision. But yeah, I don't know what happens there in between that and the revision. So maybe whether there was a B3 revision or there isn't, or this is new old stock, I don't know. Maybe Gigabyte needs to use their new old stock there of nobody wants this broken revision. I don't know. At least this worked. I saved lots. I mean, ironically, as much time as frustration as this took me. It still saved me time and money, especially downtime. I hope this is helpful for someone. At least you learned how much how much hidden firmware state is in modern NICs, unfortunately. So maybe you want to take this into consideration when you brought stuff. And that is how unbricking this failing silicon worked for me. #BigPucks. I hope you learned something. Don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and now we can continue with some more work and other low-level operating system driver and fun. Have a good day and night. I certainly have a much better now with my Ethernet working again, and see you next time.